So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back once again to the greatest watch market update show in the world. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I have a story to tell you guys today that's going to knock your socks off and blow your hair back. As you know, I'm an avid golfer. I play golf. I play a lot of golf. And I have a real good friend of mine that he plays with me golf. You know, he's a very, very wealthy man. Very, very wealthy. I'm poor. I'm like, dead broke next to this man. But he has taken a liking to who I am. And we play golf and we talk about our favorite, subject, watches. So this friend of mine's, he calls me up. He says, "I'm going to pick you up." And I said, "Fine." And so he's picking me up, and he's picking me up in his beautiful Go Fast car. You know, he has a Go Fast car, and it's unbelievable. Very, 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 very wealthy man, like I'm telling you. He has a collection that will knock your socks off and blow your hair back. So when he's picking me up, and I put my clubs in the back of the back seat of his car, I get in. It's unbelievable. You know how these people are. The people that are very wealthy, they don't care. Throw your clubs back there and let's go. So we're driving to the golf course. And ladies and gentlemen, as soon as I sat in his car, I looked at his wrist, and he had a beautiful Richard Mille, with a white silicone strap, unbelievable. Those materials they use on Richard Mille watches, STD, STP, NTP. And I look at him and I go, "Oh my God, what is that you have on your wrist?" And he tells me, "This is the new EM S1. And I said, what does that mean?" I says, "This is the Elon Musk, the S1 by Richard Mille." And I said, "Oh my God." And, and inside the dial was skeletonized, and it had Earth, a moon, satellite, astronauts, Cosmo, unbelievable. And I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm never going to question this man. This man has every watch you can think of. And as we're driving in his car, and he's explaining to me, this is it. This is the Elon Musk, short EM, Elon. I don't know how you spell that. The Elon. You guys help me with the way you spell Elon. But he said EM, EM, S1, skeletonized white, white. And it has like, bango, like tiger bango, because it's white. It's unbelievable. And I couldn't believe it. And I'm thinking in his car, and I'm never thinking, anything. This guy has the newest thing. I said, "But when did this come out?" And he's telling me this came out now in Watches and Wonders. And I'm in shock, ladies and gentlemen, when he's telling me all that. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, you have to see this beautiful timepiece by Richard Mille. It's unbelievable. And he's telling me all the good things and the functions and all that, the stabilization it has when you swing the golf club and all that good stuff. And I'm like, take a look at the picture of the watch. It's unbelievable, It's an unbelievable. And he's telling me all the things that it has, Technology meets the cosmos. The all-new EMS1 Rally Interstellar is a tribute to space exploration and human ingenuity. A watch that dares to reach beyond the ordinary, automatic function powered by a movement like a satellite in orbit. Unbelievable. Chronograph complication for precise time management, with a 41 millimeter casing. Unbelievable. Rugged, sleek, and ready for the mission. Unbelievable, those people, those Richard Mille watches. Unbelievable. Intricate outer space scene set in a mesmerizing ghost dial. It's for real, like a ghost dial. Unbelievable. The visual journey through the universe. Protective flame fusion crystal. Durable, impact resistant, high performance silicone strap. Comfort that keeps up with the adventure. Bold visionary design for those who chase the stars. Unbelievable that Elon Musk S1, the EMS1, Depth, Gravity, Embrace, Innovation. And I can't believe that this gentleman is, has this watch. He got it brand new. He said he got it from, Watches and Wonders. And how I'm not gonna believe this man, ladies and gentlemen. And he's looking at me, and he can see in my eyes that I really believe everything that he is telling me, ladies and gentlemen. And as we're getting to the golf, we're getting to the golf range, and we're getting there, he's looking at me and he's smiling. And I said, man, your watch is unbelievable. And I said, look, because you don't want to be personal with these multimillionaires and ask him how much you pay for it, I mean, this is something unbelievable. This is the Richard Mille, the EMS1, mission to orbit. Unbelievable. And I'm believing everything, because not too long ago that Elon Musk took a space thing all the way up there, and he came back down, with the supersonic and all that stuff. So I'm believing everything. And he's we're getting off the car and we're getting our clubs, and as we're walking, he's looking at me funny, and he says, there's one person who I really trust on watches, to see things. And he says, and I said, what do you mean? He says, to me, this is not a Richard Mille. I said, what do you mean? Yeah, I says, what are you talking about? This is not a Richard Mille. This is, ladies and gentlemen, this blew my mind away. I will never question this man with that watch. To me, it was all day long, every day, a Richard Mille. Man, the guy's driving a $250,000 car, man. I'm not going to question that, and he has a collection it's more expensive than my duplex house. Unbelievable, but true, ladies and gentlemen. And he tells me, ladies and gentlemen, that this is, you're not going to believe this, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I couldn't believe everything that he was telling me. He says to me, listen, man, this is not a Richard Mille. I said, bro, if it's not a Richard Mille, man, who makes this watch? This is an automatic, it's the movement, skeletonized. You see everything. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an Invicta watch, ladies and gentlemen. I was in total shock. And we're talking, and before we started playing golf, we sat down. He says to me, this is unbelievable. I mean, this is unbelievable. He's telling me this is an automatic watch. And I said, are you kidding me? And he took it off, and I looked at it, and he's telling me, this gentleman, you need to order one of these watches so you can laugh. This is an unbelievable watch. And he paid for that watch. You know that Invicta watches puts a price of, MSRP $1,500, an example, right? And then they put down a 90% off or 80% off, something to that effect. And this watch, he was showing it to me. He even went to the website to show me. The watch has been sold out. It has been sold out because it's been so popular. And this man has real Richard Mille watches. And he's been telling me that Richard Mille watches, I've been telling him that Richard Mille watches, for me personally, are dead in water. And he wanted to tell me, listen, man, you put this on and nobody can tell. You're driving a GT Porsche, GT3, whatever. Nobody's going to question what you have on your wrist. And I'm not going to question it because this guy has an unbelievable collection. If I may use the word, he has a kick-ass collection, And he took it off and I couldn't believe it. Automatic, beautiful, skeletonized, white silicone rubber strap. And he ordered it and he paid for the watch. You're not going to believe this. $169. Remember, these Invicta watches, they put a $1,500 price tag and they have a 90% off. And They were sold out, and he wanted me to order one, and I did order one, ladies and gentlemen. And as soon as I have it, I'm gonna showcase it to you guys. I could have borrowed his, but I didn't want to do that. But I was in total shock. But then he says to me, no, 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 no. But let me show you something. And he showed me a forum where, real richer male owners get together to, talk about their watches. And, since I've been saying, and they know already that the richer male watches are dead in water, they were saying bad things about the Invicta. You should make your own watches and stop copying richer male watches. They were furious. They were mad. They were steaming. They were disgusted because this $169 watch, if you're driving around in a Ferrari, in a red Go Fast Ferrari, and you have that watch in your wrist, I can promise you nobody's going to question you. Nobody. I didn't question him until he told me the truth. This is an Invicta, an Invicta watch, not a Elon Musk S1. This is an Invicta watch, same dimensions. I mean, as you can see in the pictures, it's an unbelievable watch, ladies and gentlemen. And in that forum, they were just steaming mad. They were saying that Invicta should start making their own watches and stop copying people. I mean, you're talking about a richer mill that costs, $300,000, $250,000 to a price tag of something that's just going to get you, and going to get all of you taken, it's going to get you, you hoodwink, by the watch. It's unbelievable. $169. $169.99. And there people are buying these watches left and right. Left and right. Ladies and gentlemen, just the movement of that watch, automatic, it costs you $100. Has an ETA movement. It's unbelievable. I'm not promoting the watch. No. I'm not promoting it, but I wanna spend $169 so I can have what my friend had, and I never questioned. He looked so unbelievable. He had me taken, he had me taken by the Cosmo, the satellite, because inside the dial, it has Earth, the moon, the Cosmo, the satellite. I think it even has like an astronaut floating in the air and everything. It's unbelievable. I said, oh my God. And he's telling me that he had got this watch from Watches and Wonders because he's a big kahuna. He's a big kahuna. But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know, where richer mill watches are heading to. And Invicta is making a watch just like Richard Mille. Unbelievable. I think it's, the materials they're using is plastic, but, those materials that Richard Mille uses, STD, STD, STP, NTP. Well, these people are using plastic with crystal. It's unbelievable. And it'll cost you $169.99. I was taken today. This is why I'm trying to tell you that we can all be lollipop suckers at times. Today, I was a lollipop sucker going to the golf course with my buddy, with this man that has an unbelievable watch collection. He was laughing and he was telling me, you see that what you say about lollipop suckers, window lickers, crayon eaters, tomato cans, Palmolive dish lickers, crumb bums, cow tippers, possum kickers. You were one today and we were laughing. I couldn't believe it. Ladies and gentlemen, I would have never thought that he was wearing an Invicta. So just to let you know what's happening out there, I'm not telling none of you out there to buy an Invicta watch. I'm telling you that I was a lollipop sucker today, believing that was a Richard Mille. Richard Mille watches, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, they're dead in water. I just finished giving you my testimony of playing golf today at a golf course with a chum of mine, a chum of mine, and he was laughing all the way to the golf course, laughing at me because I never questioned it. But he told me, you know what? If is there a person who I believe when talks about watches is you? And I said, okay, thank you. But you see, you're right. anybody can be a lollipop sucker. And I was one today, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to tell you my story. It's an unbelievable story. You know, 169.99 for, you know, a rich. It's not even a fake. It's a real thing by Invicta. And how do you call that? Invicta, right? Invicta. It's unbelievable. Look into it. You know, it's the S1 49012. You're gonna get a big kick out of it, as you can see in the picture. All right, guys. Anyway, guys, that's my story for the day on this you know, wannabe Richard Mille watch. But Richard Mille watch is dead in water. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care and brush your hair.